Let's look at how to create pricing boxes in Divi. We're going to be using two examples here that I've previously created. Now, these aren't created in Divi, but we're going to be able to replicate these pretty closely in the Divi builder and perhaps even make it look a tiny little bit better or more refined. Now, this particular option is a pill supplement sold in 2, 4, and 6 bottle options. And then this is another example that I've completed recently, one with 1, 2, and 3 bottle examples. Now, both of these have the same elements on the page, essentially, or within the pricing boxes. We've got the amount that the purchase is getting, so the 2, 6, and 4 bottles, how long it lasts in days and months, what percentage that they're saving in badges on the actual images, and then we've also got price scratches, basically showing the original price, and if they bundle it up, how much they're going to save. We've got the shipping informed. We've also got buy now buttons, of course. We need them to go through to checkout, and then how much it is per month, and a mention about a guarantee. Now, at a minimum, depends what you're selling, of course, but this is what I would suggest having on a good price box. So we're going to rebuild this or something similar to it, but we're going to be doing a 2 pricing box option. We're not going to be going ahead and doing 3 different ones. We're just going to focus on 2 individual pricing boxes. We're going to set it on or base it on a pill supplement also, just like this. And we're going to sell maybe a 2 and 4 bottle option and have all of these elements. So we're going to be popping back and forth and referencing this as we go to make sure that we're not missing anything as we go. So if you're ready to go, open up the Divi visual builder and follow along. It shouldn't take us any more than 30 minutes to get this all squared off and optimized on the page. So I'm going to my theme builder here just because I'm adding a new section and I want this to be, particular for this tutorial. But of course, if you have an existing page with pricing boxes, go ahead and open that. Now, what we don't want to do, so if I add a single column row in here, now Divi does have price boxes. Oh, if I go in here, pricing tables, sorry. Now these, for lack of a better term, are horrendous and gives you very little customization options. And you simply can't make these look like the previous example that I showed you. But let's break it down. Let's take a minute and break down exactly what this is. Of course, it's a pre-made element. Divi has a ton of them, but I wouldn't recommend pretty much using any of them. All it is different elements of text all layered on top of each other. Fine if you want to go in, if you're brand new to Divi and you simply don't know how to use the builder, this is fine. But if you're a little bit more advanced, and I guess why you're looking at this video, you want something that stands out just a little bit more, don't worry, whatever level you're at, we're going to create it step by step. But essentially all this is 2 columns and a bunch of text elements. And that's essentially what we're going to be using in my example, but we're going to be building it from the ground up. So we don't need to use any pre-made elements. Let's scrap that off the page. It looks horrendous and it's not going to be selling anything. So first things first, we're going to add a new row into our section. We're going to add a 2 column row because we're going to have 2 price boxes, and each column is going to work as the background to each pricing box. So what I want to do then is focus on the width of the parent row. Now the section we'll come back to, we might add a background color or something in there, but let's pay attention to the parent row here first. So I go into the settings, let's go to design and sizing. Now I never want the content to be too wide. You'll see here on the previous example, the entire width of the pricing boxes is going to max out around 800 900 pixels. And we've only 2 pricing boxes, so I want to have it around the same. So our gutter width, that's the space in between the rows, is set to 2. This minimizes the space between them. If I set it to 1, there would simply be no space. I also don't want that. And then equalize column heights. Let's have this selected as yes for now. We might come back and change that later. The width, very important here. I'm going to change this to 95%, and I'm going to set my max width to 800 pixels. Now I set that to 95% because I don't want it to take up 100% of the 800 pixels. Because when it gets down to smaller devices such as mobile, I want that 2.5% either side to make sure that the pricing boxes don't extend out to the very edges of the mobile screen. Doesn't make for good user interface. So that's all we want to change in here. Now you'll see if I hover over, this container is nice and well contained in the middle of the page, which is exactly what we want. Now let's focus on the individual pricing boxes. I go back into row settings and focus on the individual columns. So column 1, background, let's change it to off-white. It's just one of the brand colors I have saved in here. Of course, whatever you select. I would suggest keeping it from a dark color. Always choose a lighter color for the pricing boxes. It becomes very hard to read when you've got, per se, a black background with white text over it. So we have an off-white color here. That's fine. Let's go into the design tab, spacing, padding top and bottom. And you'll see here we have this text element up top here. So I actually don't want to have any padding on top because that new text element is going to come right up to the edge. So padding on top is going to be set to 0. Let's set a 35 pixel padding on the bottom. and then per se a 15 pixel there or thereabouts. We can always come back and edit this later, left and right. Border, you'll see here, we have a border all the way around the box. So I'm going to do the very same thing here. We're going to have rounded corners. Let's set that to about 5. Border styles, we're going to have the border width set at about 3 pixels. And let's just change it to this, again, brand color of a purple that I'm using here for this specific example. Border style is going to be set to solid. Box shadow, we're going to add a basic box shadow in behind here just to make that pricing box pop a little bit. And we can play around with the strength and blur strength. Seems about right there. Again, we can come back and refine this just a little bit later. So that's our basic price box in place. What I can then do is go back into my settings, right click on the first column, copy item styles, right click on the second column, paste item styles, and now we have 2 pricing boxes in place. Now let's look at the different elements within. So we'll come back to this top section here. Let's focus on the image first. Now, of course, if you don't already have a product mockup, I would suggest having one. It always helps, especially if people don't read all the information that may be above the pricing boxes. Once they come down to it, you want to at least visually represent what they are purchasing. Of course, you don't go to Nike.com and purchase a shoe without seeing the shoe in all of its detail. You want to be sure about what you're buying. So it's the very same thing with even digital courses. You want to at least have a mock-up which shows them that it's digital, it's immediately available on their phone, their tablet, their laptop, etc. So to do this, I'm going to go to canva.com. Nice and simple. I'm sure you've used it before or at least heard of it, but you can use any image design software for this. I'm going to go to create a design custom size, and let's just change this to 500 by 500 pixels, a square image. And then we're going to look for just a pill bottle mock-up, because for this example, at least, we're going to be selling like a health supplement. So search elements, let's just change this or type in pill bottle. And here we are. Perfect. So I've got one here. Let's do a maybe 2 and 4 option. So we've got 2 pill bottles here. And maybe I'll have the one in the background slightly smaller, just to make it look a little bit more realistic. I'm going to center those elements. Actually, that looks a little bit odd with the 2 of them different sizes. So I'll tell you what, I'll have them the same size, but just not stacked on top of each other. Have a little separator in there. So this is perfect. Let's go to download. I'm going to download this as a PNG with transparent background. Again, just in case we want to change the background of the box on the page. Let's come in here. Let's add our image element. And we're going to upload that image. So upload file, select the 2 bottle image and add it to the page. Now I want to go into design alignment, make sure it's center aligned. Spacing, I'm going to make sure that I remove all spacing and padding, margin and padding around it. And then sizing, I'm going to max the width out at approximately 300 pixels. I don't want them to be that large on there. So let's maybe change that to 280, I think should suffice. And then let's come in here, we'll duplicate it, pull it across to the pricing box on the right-hand side. Let's come in here, we'll duplicate this design, and then we'll have 3 bottles. So I'm going to duplicate this, I'm going to make the middle one bigger, and then add them into the center here and make them look like they're all displayed nicely. That's fine. Let's go to share, download again, PNG, transparent background. This one is just going to be page 2, and download, and then back to our builder. We're going to upload that new image into the second pricing box. And now we have a 2 and 3 pill bottle option on this page. So we've got the basis there. Let's go ahead and save just in case. You never know. It's always a good habit to go down and save every now and again. And let's have a look at our example here. So we have our images in here. We'll worry about the badge in a little bit. Let's go and add a X amount of months supply. Now, of course, if you have a digital product, you're not exactly going to be having a month's supply in here, but you don't need that text in here. But for this example, we're going to be adding it. So this is going to be paragraph text. This is going to be 2 bottles. So let's just say 2 months supply. Let's make sure this is highlighted. It's set to paragraph, which will keep design, text font. Let's choose Inter, which is just a regular Google font. Let's change it to black. Let's increase the text size up to about 21 pixels. Decrease the line size down to about 1.2 EMs. Center align. And then let's have a look at the spacing. We're going to remove any padding top and bottom. Nice and simple. So we have our 2 month supply. And then let's change this to 3 months supply, because per se that's what's in the bottles. So we want that accurate. Let's actually maybe let's not change the color of them. It's fine. Oh, I just closed Canva, but I know we're going to be going back to it. So I'm going to keep that open in there. So now we've got our bottle and we've got our month supply. Now let's add our original pricing. So we're going to add or duplicate this pricing element or this text element, sorry. Let's change this and let's just put in a random number in here. So let's put in 78.96, which was the original price for 2 bottles. Let's change this to a header 2. Actually, let's change header 3. Design heading text H3, change it to Enter. We're going to have this as bold. We want this to stand out a little bit more. Center align, it's going to be dark hex. Let's make this nice and large. So we have it set to about 66 pixels. Again, line height is going to be set to 1 EM. Spacing top and bottom is 0 because we copied it from the other one. It inherits the same styles. So that's go ahead and duplicate, pull over here, and we have it down here. So the pricing for the 3 of them then, let's just say 178. Of course, the math doesn't really add up, but it's not necessary. It's absolutely fine. So now we want to look at having this next piece of text, which is now just, and then the original price. We'll come back to this price scratch, how to add that. But I would suggest always having a price scratch in there, original price versus what they're going to be saving if they purchase today or if they bundle or whatever way you want to sell whatever product you're selling. So if I duplicate this text, and let's just see, what does it say? Now just. Let's just change this. And let's just change the just. We'll have this italicized. Just to emphasize it a little bit more, let's duplicate it and pull it over here. And now we'll have our new price. So we're going to duplicate the existing price that we have on here, pull it down in underneath that now just text. And now we want to make this bigger. So let's change this to 58.96 to show the saving. Heading text H3. Let's make this even bigger. Let's go up towards maybe 80 pixels. Now, because it's large, I actually want to pull in that text spacing a little bit. So let's go ahead and add a minus or negative 0.5 spacing. We could even go as far as 1.5, 2.5, just to pull in those individual numbers. So I think that looks good. And let's just pull this over here and let's just change this to 128. So big savings here now, and we've got the basis of our price boxing in place. And then let's add our shipping. So let's say with the 2 bottle option, let's just say they both have free shipping, to be honest. And let's just say plus, oh, where's my plus symbol? There we are. Free shipping. And we're going to duplicate that, pull it over beneath the price on the right-hand side also. So now we've got our basic elements in here. Let's do something a little different with the main pricing, however. What I want to do is go to background. Let's change it. Let's make it stand out just a little bit more. So we'll go in here. We'll decrease the opacity of this. But again, we just want it boxed off and a little bit more emphasized. So design, let's go down to box shadow. Let's add an internal shadow so it looks like it's kind of indented into the box. Again, we can play around with the strength here and make it a little bit more subtle. And then for the border, let's just have a 2 pixel border radius just to round off those edges ever so slightly. Now you'll see it has quite close proximity to the text above and below. What I can do is go into spacing, margin, and let's just add a 10 pixel margin on top. Let's see what that looks like. Maybe a little bit too little. Let's go 15 and we'll make that universal so it's top and bottom. Maybe not. Actually, that bottom text is a little bit further away from it. Perfect. Now what I can do is right click here, copy module styles, right click here and paste module styles. Now we have the same styling in here also. So looking pretty good. Next step is to add our button. We're going to come back to that. Let's add our monthly price because again, you want to make it super obvious to whoever might purchase this, the value that they're getting out of it. That's why we have the month supply, the price scratch with the new price, free shipping. We've got how much it actually costs when you break it down per month. All of these things are going to, in the prospect's mind, showcase the value that they're getting when they purchase on this page. So it's going to make it much more likely that they're going to convert, which is always beneficial for either yourself or your clients. And of course, the better results you get for your clients, the longer they're going to stay with you, the more money you generate from the agreement. So let's just copy this. So we've got just 3 or whatever it is, 32.81 a month. Go into text. Let's change that. And then let's change the color of this text. We're going to go into text here. Let's change it to our purple and we're going to change it to maybe semi-bold and we'll italicize it as well, just to make it a little bit more emphasized. Let's go to spacing. We'll add 15 pixels margin on top and let's duplicate that. And let's just say that this is cheaper, maybe $29.81 a month. Again, the math does not add up whatsoever, but let's just add it in for this example. So we want to reference, if you do have a 60-day refund policy or 30-day, whatever the case may be, you can reference it in text, or you can have a badge with a money back guarantee up on the products. All up to you, depending on how you want to showcase that. But I'm just going to add this text down the bottom also, because I do want to mention that these specific products, or at least in this individual example, that they do have a 60-day money back guarantee. So let's go into text. We're going to decrease the size of this one down to about 16. Let's go 15. Let's add an underline to it. And then let's go to spacing. Let's add some space on top. So we've got about 20 pixels on top. That's perfect. Now you'll see that we have one word wrapped onto the next line. So I don't really like that. So what I can do is either decrease the size of the text or select a max width so that text is actually pushed in a little bit more so that it wraps with more words on the second line. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to set the max width of this. Let's try out 280 pixels. And then you'll see here now it has a refund policy on the bottom, which is fine. Let's see if I set it to 260. That's fine. And then we're going to align the module center. And then let's go ahead, duplicate that and add it in here. So now again, we'll save and we'll look at our buttons. So beneath the free shipping option, let's go and search for a button. And now let's have the CTA just say buy now, or we can say save whatever percentage is. Let's just say save 20% now. That's a little bit more better, if that's not the way to say it, but it's a better CTA than simply having add to cart, buy now. You want something that's basically like, get this now. Yes, I want this. More of an agreeable statement or showing that saving that they're getting rather than just a generic add to cart, buy now. So we don't have any links. So I'm just going to add a hashtag in here. And then design alignment, we're going to set to center. The button itself, custom styles. Yes, always custom styles for the button. 24 pixels size. Button color, let's change to this pink. Button background, oh, that's the text color. Sorry, let's change it to white. Button background, let's change to pink. Let's change it to purple, actually. You always want the CTA buttons to be a different color than everything else on the page. That's a very key thing that we always do. Now, I understand the examples that I've shown you. This is red, where a lot of the page is red also. And this is blue. A lot of the page is blue also. But this is more specific to the brand and how they want their products to look. But when you can help it, always have the CTA buttons a different color than everything else on the page. It does help conversions. So let's change this actually. Let's add a gradient in here. Why not? Let's choose this first color. Let's go here. Second color, we're going to go with this kind of pinky. Let's actually bring it back more towards purple, I think. There we are. Just a subtle one on here. Gradient direction, let's change to around 90 degrees. And border width, we're going to set to 0. Border radius, we're going to have rounded corners on this. Button font is going to be Enter. We're going to have it semi-bold. Button icon, no. We're not going to worry about that. Margin, top, 15 pixels to bring it away from that free shipping text. We already have space on the bottom, so I'm going to set that to 0. And then let's make sure we have our button nice and large. Now, if you haven't seen my video on how to optimize buttons, that's fine. You can go ahead and check that out after this video. But what we do here is do not add left and right padding. Because again, you'll have to play around with this depending on how much text you have in there to make it all look uniform and on one line. But again, once the page starts coming in, that text is going to wrap. You want to give it space to breathe. So what I'd suggest doing is not adding any left or right padding. And we're going to optimize that with CSS in a little bit. And that CSS is going to be available for you to simply copy paste. So don't worry if you're unfamiliar with it. Shadow color, we're going to decrease slightly here. We want the button to pop a little bit, but not that much. So now what we can do is go to advanced, custom CSS, module elements, main element. Let's go to width 100%. It's going to take out the full width of the container without padding. That's the main thing. So there's nothing pushing the text in left or right. That text is free to move about. It's the button that's going to be taking up the full width of the container. Okay, so now let's duplicate that, pull it over here, same position, just underneath that free shipping text. I'm going to save. And now we're looking pretty good, but let's refine this just a little bit more. So now we have a price box, say for instance, this one. This one's smaller than the middle one because the middle one is the most amount of revenue for the business. It's the best value for the customer. So both the customer and the business want this particular product or bundle sold because more money for the business, more value for the customer. So we want to emphasize this a little bit more. So let's work on that as well here, because what we can do here is make all the elements smaller. That may take some work if you don't know CSS, but you're in luck because we know CSS and we can easily change this, or we tell you true, we don't even need CSS. This is easily doable within the default options in the Divi Builder. Let me show you. Row settings, column 1, design, transform, and you can have transform scale. So what we can do then, see here, we make it smaller or bigger, depending on what we want. Let's change this to 96% of its original size, which makes the 2 bottle option smaller. And then what we can do is go into column 2, design, transform, and let's change the second box to about 106, which now makes that box bigger again than the original and bigger, much bigger than the one on the left-hand side. You'll see when I hover over them, they change size. Don't worry, that doesn't happen on the front end, just in the builder when you use transform scale. So let's save this now so we have our sizing correct. So now we want to focus on the top bit. So we've got this top bit here with the text, 2 pieces of text with a background color. So let's go ahead, let's not add a new piece of text. We can simply copy what we already have, pull it up here, and now let's add our text in. So what we can do is have, what does it say here? It has 2 bottles, great value, last 60 days. So we've got 2 bottles, great value. And then we have lasts. Actually, let's just go back to our visual editor here, because I want that break in there. And we have lasts 60 days. Okay, so now what we can do is highlight this, make sure it's set to paragraph, which it is already, design, text. Let's make this semi-bold. Actually, I'll tell you what, let's separate these 2 elements. It's going to be difficult with line height. So we have this 2 bottles, great value. Let's go to background, change it to the purple, the same as the element here, or the border of the element. And then we can go to design, spacing, padding is on the inside, so we want to set a padding on top. It needs to be a little bit more. Let's set it to maybe 20. And then we'll reduce, or we won't have any padding on the bottom because we'll have another element in underneath, which I'll show you now in a moment. So we want to change the text to white. And then let's make it emphasized a little bit more. So let's change it to bold, and let's change the text size to 26. Okay, fine. So now you can see it doesn't exactly extend out to the end. That's because on this column, we have column 1, design, spacing. We've got padding, 0 pixels left and right. And then we can go ahead and any element that's now extending out towards the very edges of our box, what we can do is just go back and edit that. So by going to our price box here, design or pricing on the price box, sizing, and then let's just set a max width of 300 pixels. We'll center it, and we want this a little bit wider, or we can set a max width of 95%, and it will extend and leave that 2.5% either side. We can do then the very same with the button. Go into the Advanced tab, Custom CSS Module Elements, and change this from 100 to 95, nice and easy. Now what I can do is right-click that button, copy module styles, paste module styles here to set that to 95, and then same here, right-click, copy module styles, paste module styles, and then let's go into that second column, design, spacing, and then let's get rid of that padding left and right. Okay, so now we're all optimized again, and we have that text up top. Now you'll notice there's a tiny little border between that piece of text and the border of the actual price box itself. What I can do is go into spacing, margin. Let's set the top to -1, and it will just remove that. I don't even think it has, but I don't think that'll show on the front end, just here in the visual builder. Let's go ahead and duplicate that element. We'll pull it across here to the other one, and let's change to 3 bottles, and let's change this to best. Let's have that italicized also, just to emphasize it a little bit more. So now what we can do is duplicate that, come in, and we'll change this to 60 days supply. It's set to paragraph, that's fine. Let's go into design, text. Let's make this regular. We're going to text transform, have it all caps. Let's bring it down to about 16 pixels, line height 1 EM, and let's set the spacing on it to 5 pixels. Let's have it a little bit different. Now what we can do is go into spacing, top. I'm going to reduce this to 10 so it pulls up towards that top text, maybe a little bit more. Let's go 12. And then bottom is going to set to 10 to pull that purple border away from it. Maybe I'll set that to 12 also. Perfect. Okay. Now we'll duplicate that, pull it across here. And now we can have 90-day supply on the 3 bottle option. Okay, perfect. We're looking pretty damn good at this stage. Let's click on save. So now what we want to do, the last thing is add our saving badges. So we're going to come back to Canva, duplicate this artboard. Let's get rid of these pills. And then we'll go over to elements and type in badge. Let's just look for something that looks decent. Here we are. Let's extend this out. And let's change it to a color that we know will stand out. Let's change it to this purple. So let's go in here, button, pick one of these colors. Go back to Canva, change this background. So that just matches the brand. Let's go back in. Let's look for a circle, like a line. That's cool. Let's change that to white, maybe just to have a little border on there. I love Canva for a lot of things. It's a little bit tedious in some ways, but most of the time it's pretty good tool to use. So let's just say for the 2 bottle option, you're going to be saving 20%. Let's change this to interfont as well, the same as we have on the page. Let's change it to extra bold, and we're going to reduce that letter spacing. So hold in just a little bit there, and let's have that text nice and big. Oh, I tell you what, it's not actually the last thing we have. We still have that price scratch to do. So I won't forget that. We're going to do that also. And let's just copy that. And then let's just have save. Let's reduce the size of that. Probably have that 20%, a little bit bigger. Nice and simple, nothing incredibly complicated here. Just making sure that it looks pretty decent. Okay, maybe let's have the 20% in like a some sort of yellow or something. Something that just makes it stand out just a little bit more. It's all these little details, design-wise, that just, helps things stand out. So let's have that. Share, download, PNG, transparent background. This is going to be page 3. Download, and then let's add it to this pricing box here. So we're going to add a new image. Now, of course, you can add this to the original bottle image and just export it all as one image. That's fine, but I prefer to have each element in these pricing boxes as separate, because you never know when the client's going to come back and be like, oh, can we change this badge to say 22% rather than 20%? You don't want to go back and edit a bunch of things. So let's go in here, upload the item, and then let's add it to our price box. So now it shows in underneath the pricing bottles, or the bottles, which is fine. We'll change that in a moment. Alignment, set to center. Sizing, important. Let's set a max width on here. 200 pixels, let's try. A little bit too big. Go to 100, probably too small, yes. Let's go to 150, looks about right. Module alignment set to middle. Spacing, let's just set all these values to 0, top and bottom. Then we're going to go to the advanced tab, position. We're going to change it from default to absolute. Now you'll see it's popped up here. That's fine. Change it over to the other corner. And we're going to have a vertical offset. We're going to bring it down. Let's bring it down to about there. And then Z index, I don't need to change anything here, but you'll notice if the Z index is set too low, it could pop behind other elements on the price boxes. So always make sure that you set the Z index, just set it to a value above 10 or 12 and you should be fine. Now I also want this slightly askew, if that's the correct word to use there. Transform, I'm going to go into transform rotate. Check out this out. Just have that little playful. I don't know if that's playful, but anyway. Let's duplicate it. Pull it across here into the new price box. It should take up the same area. That's fine. Let's change this to 25% is what you're going to be saving with this one, apparently. PNG, transparent background. Page 3, download. And again, we're just going to change this out. Now you'll see the difference between these pricing boxes and the original pricing boxes. And I tell you what, there is a hell of a difference here, folks. So save. Got one more thing to do. We've got the price scratch to add in here. So let's go ahead. Let's add a new image in here. And let's go to Canva again. I'm going to go back to home because I've got one I created earlier. Here's one I made earlier. Go into the price scratch. This is basically a small little canvas. I think it was like 200 pixels in width versus 50 pixels in height. What I did was go into elements and search for maybe like a strike, and you'll get all these red lines. Now, red isn't exactly on the brand color. However, I would still suggest using red because it's striking for a strike. And it just stands out. So let's go ahead and use that red strike. So I'm going to go back into my theme builder here. I'm pretty sure I already have that asset uploaded. Yes, I do. It's here. Uploaded. And now you'll see it's on the canvas here. Design, sizing. Actually, we don't need to worry about sizing. Spacing, margin, top and bottom, padding, top and bottom. That's 0. Alignment set to the center. And then what we're going to do is go to advanced, again, position, default to absolute, change the location maybe to top right hand corner here, vertical offset. Let's pull it down until it covers that price. Now you'll see it's actually behind the price. So Z index need to increase. Now that pricing or that scratch is a little bit weak actually, considering the the size of the text behind it. It's not exactly covering it up or making it obvious that it's striked out. So let's look at increasing that. So let's go, if I go to resize this design, actually, let's make it a bit bigger. Let's go to custom size. Let's change this to 400 by 100. And let's resize this design. So we've got more to play with here. So we have our element. Let's choose a different strike design, something that's a little bit more girthy, for lack of a better word. Let's choose this. Pretty garish, but should work. Go ahead, download PNG, transparent background. Go to our theme builder and let's replace this image here now. So content, image, settings, upload file, select file. And let's see what this looks like. Oof. Probably on the further end of the scale or the complete opposite end, but we can tidy this up. So sizing, let's set the max width to 200 pixels just to make it smaller. And then the alignment, I'm going to set to center, which I have. Now, why is that not in the middle? Actually, what I can do is horizontally adjust it. So we have our vertical offset. We've also got a horizontal offset, you'll see here. What I can do then is just pop that into the middle and have that show over. Maybe you want something that shows the price a little bit better so they can actually make out what the original pricing was, but I don't think it's too bad. Let's actually increase the size of it. Maybe like 230. We can go back down to advanced position, play around with the horizontal offset again. Okay, then we can duplicate this. Now you'll see sometimes when you use absolute positioning in Divi, it jumps like this, so it's hard to actually to duplicate these elements. But what you can do is go down here into wireframe view, look for the image itself. There it is. I'm going to duplicate it here, pull it across into here, and now we should have it on our other price box as well, which it is. So now we've got two awesome looking price boxes. We've got two options. We specify the day supply, the month supply, the price saving, free shipping, how much it is per month, and we also specify a money back guarantee. So really no option. If someone wants to buy, they're most likely going to be purchasing on this page. So I think it looks super nice and tidy, and of course, a world apart from the Divi default pricing boxes. Of course, I'm sure you'll agree. Now, before we finish, let's go ahead and look at the tablet views of these. Now, you'll see on tablet view, this row has extended out again. That's fine. All we have to do is come back in and optimize these slightly. Now, you'll see also our absolute elements, because the row has extended, those absolute elements have fallen out of place. But we can just go in and quickly optimize these. So if I go into the row settings itself, design, sizing. So on desktop, we had it set to 800 pixels max width. Make sure you're selected tablet, and let's change it to 400 pixels max width. Oh, not 400. And because that's basically half of what we did before, all these elements should now pop back into line. And I know, obviously, the page, there's a lot of white space either side, but I think that's absolutely fine. For pricing boxes, you still want them contained to not have that content run unnecessarily wide. So we set that to 400 pixels. And now what we can do also, because the transform scale doesn't really have the same effect on tablet, what we can do here is go to transform, make sure I have my tablet view selected, and then change it. Oh, this is the row settings actually. Sorry, I made a mistake there. So let's go out of this setting. Sorry, let's go back into design, sizing. Let's set this on tablet to 400 pixels. And then let's go into our individual columns, design, transform. And then we want to make sure, again, select tablet. I'm going to change this back to 100%. And we're also going to go back in here, design, transform scale, tablet view, and set this from 106 back to 100. And then we just have two normally sized pricing boxes in here. Let's quickly save before we quickly go down to mobile view. And you can see here again, pretty optimized as it is. And you'll see here now with the padding on our button, because we're not using padding on here, or the spacing on our button, because we're not using padding, the button can move in and out without pushing that text onto two lines, which I think is great. So on these, what we can do with these elements now, because the screen is getting smaller, what we can do is go in here, advanced, position, change it from absolute, of course, select your mobile view, change it from absolute to default, And then what I can do is just play around with the margin and spacing on here. So spacing, let's set the top margin to minus 100. Let's set it to minus 150. That's fine. I know it's in the middle now, but that's what we can do. You know, we can play around with it. We can also add a padding on the left to pull it over to the one side a little bit, but I think it's fine as it is. Of course, you can leave it absolute positioning also and just play around with it. So what we can do is go into advanced, position, absolute, and then play around with these offsets. So go down to mobile view. You can play around with the vertical offset, play around with the horizontal offset in that particular view, just to optimize it a little bit more. Maybe you want to pull it in from the edge so that when that screen comes in, it moves over the product, but it doesn't change in any way. Now this price scratch, probably be better off to change this to a relative position. We just undo that. So I can go into wireframe view if I can't select it. I think it's this one. Yes, it is. We can go in advanced position on mobile view, change it to default. And now you'll see it's fallen beneath. Oh, let's go down to mobile view. And now you'll see it's fallen beneath. But because it's center, what I can simply do is go to design spacing. And again, do a negative margin on top. Let's try 100. A little bit too much. Let's go minus 80. And just play around with it until it's refined. Now we can go into this piece of text here and add a little bit padding on top just for mobile view. Actually, let's undo that. We want to make sure that we're in mobile specific view. Wireframe view again. Let's look for that piece of text and now just, and then spacing. Make sure we're in mobile view and let's add 15 pixels on top. And let's have a look at what that looks like on the view itself. And now you see that we have a space on top of that text also. So now we have this price box adjusted. Now what I do also for very small devices, you can see that this number actually wraps. What we can do is go in, design, heading text, H3, look for the font size or text size, mobile view, and change it from 80. Let's just change it down to 70. And that just means for very small devices now, it's still on one line. So those changes can be applied up here. All we have to do, of course, is hover over, copy module styles, paste module styles. It'll assume all the same settings. Again, with that price scratch, what we can do is come down to wireframe, look for the image, which is here. And I can right click, copy module styles, paste module styles in here. And of course, if you want this to be more obvious what it is, you can go in here, admin label, and change this to price scratch. This is probably something you should be doing anyway, but I just get lazy when I'm creating these. Because of course, we're a little bit more time conscious when we're doing these. Okay, that should sort our price scratch on mobile for both. And then of course our badge, what I can do is copy module styles, paste module styles. Perfect. Let's save. And now we should have optimized pricing boxes for all devices. Now you'll see, because I've changed the value and I've obviously not selected mobile, it's now changed here. So I want to go back to advanced position, absolute, and change the, not the horizontal offset, but the vertical offset. Let's change it back down to here, 502 pixels. So this is something you always want to be checking just to make sure that your changes haven't affected any other view size. Go down here. So that's now optimized here. Go down to tablet and check things. This all looks very good. And then on mobile as well, looks good. You can see that's purely optimized for all devices. Everything is moving as it should and nothing's wrapping or there's no text doing weird shit. All looks very good. So that's how to create custom price boxes in Divi. Of course, a little bit more time consuming, but far more customization when it comes to it. So I hope you enjoyed that. I understand it was a little bit more time consuming, but if you took the time to go through it, thank you very much. I hope it was easy to follow along and I hope you learned something that you can take and now offer to clients. And I think when you're able to do pricing box structures like this, it's invaluable to clients compared to what they're used to using by default on these softwares. When you're able to customize one such as this, it makes the world of difference. So thanks again for watching. If you want to subscribe to the channel, please do so. It really helps us out. We're just at 150 subs or something now. Obviously trying to get up there. So yeah, that would really help. And of course, like the video and comment. Let me know how this helped, what you thought of it. And I'll make sure to do some more tutorials on more advanced design techniques like this in the future. Thanks a lot for watching again, and see you soon.